Ladies and gents, welcome back. It's time for another alternative paper review. First up to the Daily Mail this morning, who do their best to pivot away from the rabid transphobia they prop up every other day of the week by suggesting phones were the problem with the murder of Brianna Gay. So, I mean, that should surprise no one. I mean, they have the option here of pausing and reflecting and considering how their own mean-spirited prejudice reporting may have contributed to an environment where people feel empowered to murder a trans girl. They could do that, or they could call tech into the headmaster's office. So which one do you think they've got? Yeah, they've gone for the latter. What a total shocker. Do I think the murderer would have still done it had she not had access to violent websites on a smartphone? I don't know. Honestly, I mean, they would have had access to a laptop too, right? The murderer did it when she was 16, which must have meant she was radicalized when she was like 14 or 15. But like, why would you be going looking for that at 14 or 15 years old? That is not a normal thing to spend any length of time witnessing, observing on the internet. Like, maybe you're curious, once or twice, or maybe your friend sends you a dodgy link for a laugh when you're that age. But that is not a normal hobby for a 15-year-old to be engaged in, is it? Which to my mind means that this bitch was already damaged by the time she got to 15 years old. Which means, isn't this a conversation about her neglect, about her possible, chaotic upbringing, of psychopathy, of social worker budgets? I don't know, man. Sometimes it feels like nothing is ever the fault of the thing it's actually the fault of. It always magically turns out to be something that we have to either tax or ban it, but that won't ever solve the actual problem regardless, Next up to the Sun. Oh, good. Yeah, let's see what world exclusive these guys are putting out today, shall we? Premiership ace in rehab for party gas. You what? I said Premiership ace in rehab for party gas. How can you go to rehab over NOS canisters? Now, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever... they're not addictive. They're not imagine going to the Priory and you're sat in a circle, you're surrounded by cokeheads and booze hounds. And these are people who have had their lives ripped apart by the crushing addictions they've developed. The metaphysical reliance that they've developed on these substances. And then you walk in yeah, I know it seems like I'm a cliche, morally bankrupt Premiership footballer that was banging my brother's wife or something just before my youngest christening. But actually, I'm here to tell you all that it was anxiety and depression that made me do it. It was an addiction. Right. Yeah, it was the happy gas that was making me sad. Good grief. Anyway, I suppose it's as good a time as any to wish you all a happy Monday, guys. Finally, to the Acid Man fugitive, who will now have evaded the police for 5 whole days. Now, the Telegraph was saying this morning that there are 40 asylum-seeking claimants on the Bibby Stockholm who claim that they've converted to Christianity. Though it's not entirely clear if that's just based on the sounds of prayers from the occupants of the Legionnaires' ravaged death boat, begging to God to get them off it. Now, there seems to be a lot of confusion and hysteria around why the Metropolitan Police have yet to be able to apprehend Abdul Azidi. But, I don't know if it's that shocking. I mean, we're talking about a violent misogynist who the Met are failing to take action on. Does any of that sound familiar to you? I mean, statistically, they're more likely to recruit him than charge him. But of course, today we're starting to see the reports go into Chapter 2 territory, where it's less about the horror of what took place last Wednesday and more about the secondary factors and ripple effects since then. Azidi was a recent convert to Christianity, and apparently this means we need to withdraw our responsibility to offer people refuge if they're at risk of being hanged for blasphemy back home. We're back to, we must leave the ECHR and all of that. I mean, look, lads, I don't think that is going to fix this. I mean, firstly, maybe we should have taken his mobile phone away from him. I don't know. But second, as I said on the podcast the other night, the UK is already the world capital of acid attacks. So they're likely to keep happening whether you take away everybody's maternity leave or not. But yes, anyway, prepare yourselves for much reporting and secondary reporting on the fact that this guy and others are recent converts to Christianity. But just as a side note, I mean, just once, I would love to see these Mac-jacketed hacks report on recent converts to Christianity in the same way they do with recently converted to Islam. You know when there's a story about a guy who recently converted to Islam and then he goes out and stabs a bunch of people, and it's always on like paragraph 2. Paragraph 3, absolute latest. It's like, reports suggest he had recently converted to Islam. You know, like it's knowingly, it's expected. Oh, I heard he had recently converted to Islam. Well, there you go then. Like, I'd love to see the same thing rolled out with stories like this. Like who knows? Like, maybe he was a relatively normal guy until very recently he converted to Christianity and he was radicalized by this Old Testament-y, violent and misogynistic religion. I do not permit a woman to teach or to exercise authority over a man. Rather, she is to remain quiet. Timothy 2:12. Speaking of being radicalized by religions, if you do fancy putting a little tip in the congregational collection basket, do tap the 3 dots and give me a little super thanks. I would be super grateful. Or even better, full on join my cult. If you go to my profile, there's a little join button, or follow the links in the description. You can do that or Patreon. Or if you're looking for something new to listen to, I've got 2 episodes of the podcast that came out this weekend. That's episode 248 and 249. But for now, that is it. I've got a jet, guys. I've got to get off to rehab because I woke up this morning like I thought I was in an uncharacteristically sort of good mood. You know, I felt sort of happy-ish, you know, and I was smiling, I was laughing even. But now it's clear to me, having read that Sun piece, that I must be addicted to my own endorphins or something. I'm addicted to happiness, guys. Got to go and share my story with the group. Peace.